The Pacific Northwest has always carried a strange weight in the air. Mist clings to the trees like a living shroud, and the forests breathe with secrets that no one dares to repeat. Washington is a place where ghost towns sink into moss, where mountain passes echo with the cries of the lost, and where water reflects faces that shouldn't exist. Tonight, we're stepping into its forgotten corners, the haunted hotels and cursed woods and abandoned places where the living and the dead share uneasy ground. The question is, will you make it back before the fog closes in? 1. Mount Rainier's Vanishing Hitchhiker, Mount Rainier National Park. The looming presence of Mount Rainier has inspired awe for centuries, but along its winding roads, fear has taken root. Drivers navigating the misty highways at night tell of a young woman in a white dress standing at the roadside, her eyes vacant, her thumb extended. Those who stop to pick her up describe the same story. She enters the car silently, her face pale, her hands cold. Then, just as the vehicle rounds the next bend, when she vanishes, leaving the seat empty and the air colder than before. Some believe she is the spirit of a bride who died in a car crash decades ago. Others think she represents the countless lives lost in accidents on the mountain's treacherous roads. Rangers have heard the stories for years, and though they dismiss them as folklore, they admit that many refuse to drive those roads at night. The forest itself seems complicit, the towering pines swallowing sound, the fog twisting shapes into something not quite human. If you drive there, remember to keep your eyes on the road and on the rearview mirror. You never know who might be riding with you. 2. Pike Place Market, Seattle. Seattle's Pike Place Market is famous for its bustling vendor, flying fish, and colorful crowds. But beneath the lively exterior lies a labyrinth of secrets and spirits. The market, first opened in 1907, was built over an older neighborhood, and its underground levels still carry the weight of forgotten lives. One of the most well-known spirits is Princess Angeline, the daughter of Chief Seattle. She was beloved by locals, known for weaving baskets and selling them around the market until her death in 1896. Even today, she is said to linger, her apparition appearing in photographs and glimpsed in the shadows of stairwells. Shoppers often report feeling a sudden chill, followed by the faint sound of a woman singing softly in the distance. But she's not alone. Vendors have seen shadowy figures darting between stalls long after the market has closed, and security guards tell stories of phantom footsteps echoing across the cobblestones. In the basement levels, laughter and whispers drift out of locked rooms, and lights flicker on without cause. Some even claim to see ghostly children playing in the hallways, their voices echoing before fading into silence. Would you wander the underground corridors alone, knowing history is still alive and watching Pike Place Market isn't just Seattle's heart, it's its haunted soul? 3. Tokeland Hotel, Tokeland. Along the windswept Washington coast lies the Tokeland Hotel, the oldest operating hotel in the state. Built in 1885, it was originally a farmhouse before transforming into a seaside inn. With its creaking floors, faded wallpaper, and proximity to storm-battered shores, it already carries an air of melancholy. But it is the stories of its permanent, ghostly residents that have made it infamous. The most well-known spirit is a young Chinese immigrant who tragically lost his life near the property. Locals say his ghost never left. Guests report seeing a shadowy figure moving quietly through the hallways at night, often lingering near the stairwell, doors open and close by themselves. and objects shift in locked rooms as if unseen hands are tidying up after long-forgotten visitors. Some guests wake to the feeling of pressure on their chest, as though someone is leaning over them, silently watching. Others describe the sound of boots pacing the floor above their rooms, though no one is checked in upstairs. Even the hotel's dining room has its stories. Waitstaff have seen chairs pull themselves out from tables, ready for invisible diners. Would you spend a night here, knowing that some of the guests checked in more than a century ago and never left? The Tokeland Hotel isn't just a relic of the past. It's a gathering place for spirits who refuse to leave the shore behind. 4. Thornwood Castle, Lakewood. At first glance, Thornwood Castle looks like a fairy tale mansion, towering brick walls, sprawling gardens, and an aura of timeless elegance. But within those walls, shadows move that don't belong to any living guest. Built in 1911, the castle was constructed with bricks imported from a 400-year-old English manor, carrying not just history across the sea, but perhaps something far darker. Guests and staff alike have reported ghostly encounters. Figures dressed in early 20th century clothing drift through the halls, vanishing when approached. Mirrors seem to hold reflections just a moment too long, as though someone lingers behind the glass. The grand staircase, a centerpiece of the home, is often accompanied by phantom footsteps echoing in the silence. The gardens tell their own stories. Some visitors claim to see a woman in white gliding across the hedges, her face blurred as though lost to time. Others feel sudden drops in temperature, their breath fogging even in the heat of summer. Doors unlock and swing open without warning, and late at night, whispers drift through the halls, speaking names no guest recognizes. Would you dare to spend the night in a castle where every brick may hold a memory of the dead? Thornwood doesn't just house history, it breathes it back into every corner. 5. Mount Baker Theatre, Bellingham. When the Mount Baker Theatre first opened in 1927, it was a jewel of Bellingham, a grand performance house with gilded halls and flickering lights that drew audiences from across the state. But as the decades passed, stories began to spread of a presence that lingers long after the curtain falls. The most famous spirit is Judy, a mischievous entity believed to be a former actress who adored the stage too much to leave it behind. She's known for flickering lights, rustling costumes, and whispering in the ears of actors just before they step into the spotlight. Stagehands working late into the night have heard a woman humming softly, only to find the stage completely empty. But Judy isn't alone. Patrons have spotted shadow figures drifting across the balconies, and ushers have felt unseen hands tug at their coats. Some visitors describe sudden cold drafts sweeping across the aisles, the scent of old perfume lingering in the air. And in the basement, where props are stored, workers refuse to go alone, claiming to hear heavy footsteps pacing slowly behind them. Would you sit in that darkened theater, waiting for a play to begin, knowing the cast might include the dead Mount Baker Theatre is more than a stage, it's a haunting that performs every night? 6. Hotel de Haro, San Juan Island. Tucked away on San Juan Island, the Hotel de Haro stands as one of Washington's oldest lodgings, its walls steeped in history and quiet unease. Built in 1886, it has hosted presidents, celebrities, and weary travelers, but it has also become infamous for the guests who never checked out. The most enduring tale centers on a chambermaid who fell in love with a man above her station. When their affair was discovered, she was cast aside, humiliated, and left heartbroken. Some say she took her life within the hotel. Others whisper she wasted away, consumed by grief. What remains certain are the encounters. Guests have reported seeing a woman in Victorian dress lingering in the hallways, her gaze fixed on doors she will never open. In some rooms, mirrors cloud over without warning, as if hiding the reflection of someone else standing behind you. The hotel's creaky wooden floors carry footsteps in the dead of night, echoing down the corridors when no one is there. Staff have described lights flicking on and off in locked rooms, and doors that slam shut without cause. Even skeptics admit that something about the air feels charged heavy. Waiting. Would you dare to sleep here, knowing that when you wake in the dark, someone might already be watching at the Hotel de Haro? The line between guest and ghost has blurred. 7. Northern State Hospital, Cedro Woolley. In the quiet town of Cedro Woolley lies the remains of Northern State Hospital, once the largest mental asylum in Washington. Opened in 1912, it was meant to be a self-sufficient community, with farms, workshops, and treatment wards spread across thousands of acres. But the reality was far darker. Patients endured primitive therapies, isolation, and neglect. Many died here, buried in unmarked graves beneath the rolling fields. Today, the hospital is abandoned, but its ghosts linger. Visitors who trespass onto the grounds report seeing figures in patient gowns wandering the empty corridors, their faces pale and vacant. Disembodied voices echo in the crumbling halls, and the faint hum of machinery long dismantled drifts on the wind. In the underground tunnels, shadows move against the walls. But when the light flickers back, the space is empty. Locals whisper that the spirits are restless, trapped between the life they were denied and the silence of the earth. Some believe the land itself has absorbed their torment, radiating despair that you can feel in your chest when you stand too long among the ruins. The question isn't whether Northern State Hospital is haunted, but whether it ever stopped being a prison for the lost. 8. Manresa Castle, Port Townsend. Port Townsend's Manresa Castle looks beautiful from the outside, a stately, historic hotel with steep roofs and proud towers. But within its halls, the weight of sorrow has never truly lifted. Built in 1892 for a wealthy businessman, the castle has since passed through many hands, transforming from a private mansion to a Jesuit college, and now into a hotel that embraces its haunted reputation. The most enduring legend involves a young woman named Kate, heartbroken and abandoned by her lover. She hung herself from the rafters of room 306. Guests who stay there report hearing the creak of rope tightening, followed by the slow sound of footsteps pacing overhead, though the floor above is empty. Another spirit is said to be a monk who leapt to his death from the tower, his shadow still flickering against the walls as though frozen in mid-fall. The bar downstairs is no less unsettling. Bartenders have watched glasses slide across the counter on their own, while guests describe an oppressive silence that falls over the room, like the castle itself is listening. Even skeptics leave with stories of lights flickering, locked doors swinging open, and whispers seeping from nowhere. Would you dare spend the night here, knowing you might not be alone even when the room falls silent at Manresa Castle? The ghosts are permanent guests. 9. The Black Diamond Cemetery, Black Diamond. Cemeteries are always unsettling, but the Black Diamond Cemetery feels different, heavier, as though grief itself still walks the grounds. Founded in the late 1800s to bury coal miners who lost their lives in brutal accidents, The graveyard has been a gathering place for both mourners and restless spirits ever since. Visitors speak of ghostly lanterns floating among the headstones, lights swaying gently as though miners are still making their rounds. Voices in foreign tongues, echoes of the many immigrant workers who came here seeking fortune, drift across the wind, even when the night is still. Some have heard children laughing, followed by the scraping of small footsteps darting through the grass. But perhaps the most chilling reports are of a woman dressed in white, who lingers by the older graves. She is said to weep softly until someone dares approach her. Then she fades, leaving behind nothing but the sound of earth shifting, as though the ground itself remembers. Locals warn that if you walk the cemetery alone, the spirits may follow you home, their coal-dusted boots leaving invisible tracks across your floorboards. Whether that's a tale to keep curious thrill-seekers away, or a warning born of experience, is up to you to decide. 10 Iron Goat Trail, Stevens Pass. Imagine hiking an abandoned railway trail in the mountains. The air so cold it feels like needles against your skin. The Iron Goat Trail near Stevens Pass is known for its stunning scenery, but it hides a story soaked in tragedy. In 1910, a devastating avalanche swept 2 trains off the tracks in what became known as the Wellington disaster. Nearly 100 souls perished, their bodies buried beneath snow and wreckage. The town of Wellington itself was eventually abandoned, left to rot beneath creeping ivy and silence. Hikers who walk the trail today report feeling watched as they move past the crumbling tunnels and twisted remnants of the old railroad. Cold drafts push through sealed rock passages, carrying whispers that seem to echo words' names. Please, cries. Some claim to see figures of passengers stumbling along the path, their outlines glowing pale in the fog before vanishing like snowflakes in the wind. Dogs refuse to enter certain tunnels, growling at shadows that dance just out of sight. Would you dare linger in those tunnels after dark, knowing entire trainloads of lives ended here in an instant? The Iron Goat Trail doesn't just remember the past, it breathes it back into the night. Washington is a state where beauty and darkness intertwine, where snowy peaks, bustling markets, and crumbling ruins all hide whispers of the dead. From tragic disasters to restless spirits, each place holds a story that refuses to be buried. The next time you wander through Washington, whether it's a quiet forest trail, a historic castle, or a crowded market, ask yourself, are you truly alone? Or are you walking alongside the echoes of those who came before? That's all for today. If you enjoyed this chilling journey, don't forget to like, comment with your favorite haunted location, and subscribe for more weekly videos from the shadows.